No one attended my wedding. Yet my mother demanded $2,500 for my sister's engagement party. The most meaningful moments are spent with people who truly value you. That single caption turned what should have been the happiest day of my life into a permanent scar. When I first saw those words, I still had no idea what was coming. I stood in the bridal suite, wearing the most beautiful dress I would ever own. A pure white mermaid gown that shimmered with every movement as delicate beads caught the light. Through my veil, the view outside showed a perfect blue sky and trees gently swaying in the breeze. Today, I, Harper Collins, was supposed to leave behind my everyday identity as a hardworking accountant and become the leading lady in my own love story. The venue was a charming guest house tucked away in the woods, far enough from the city to feel like a secret world. Beside me sat my groom, Dylan, smiling with a touch of nerves. His parents kept repeating how stunning I looked, their concern for me even greater than for their own son. But the seats reserved for my mother, Vivian, and my younger sister, Riley, remained painfully empty. The ceremony was already running late. Staff members whispered in the corner, throwing sympathetic glances my way. "I'll call them again," Dylan said quietly, standing up. I could only nod. When he returned and shook his head, I understood everything without a word. No answer. Calls went straight to voicemail. I forced myself to stay calm, staring out the window, while a quiet dread began spreading inside me. An accident, a surprise, anything but the worst possibility. Then a message appeared in my old high school group chat. Someone had posted a screenshot with the question, "Isn't this Harper's mom and sister?" My hands trembled as I opened the image. There they were, my mother in a glamorous champagne gold dress, Riley proudly holding up a designer handbag, surrounded by my aunt and cousins. The location was the penthouse of the city's most exclusive hotel. And beneath the photo, in cheerful letters, "The most meaningful moments are spent with people who truly value you." Time stopped. A cold ringing filled my ears. On my wedding day, they had chosen to celebrate somewhere else and posted it publicly for the world to see. In their eyes, I simply didn't matter. Dylan saw the photo, then my face, and his expression turned from confusion to anger. His parents looked too and fell silent. The hall felt heavy with unspoken pity. A staff member asked gently, "Shall we proceed with the ceremony?" Something inside me snapped, not into tears but into steel. I stood, removed my veil with my own hands, and announced clearly to everyone present, "Yes, we will proceed. Everyone here today is the family I cherish. This ceremony is for us. Let's begin our new life together." And we did. The wedding that followed was beautiful beyond words. Dylan's family embraced me completely, my friends surrounded me with love, and the absence of my blood relatives faded against the warmth I received. It became one of the best days of my life. Afterward, I opened my phone, found my mother's and sister's contacts, and deleted them without hesitation. Not out of revenge, but because I was finally setting myself free. That decision wasn't born in a single moment. It was the result of years of slow erosion. It started 5 years earlier when I began earning a steady income. My mother called one evening in tears. Her house was at risk because she had fallen far behind on mortgage payments after years of overspending to keep up appearances. I had just saved enough to open my own accounting firm, a dream I had worked toward for a decade. But Vivian knew how to weaponize guilt. "So your dream matters more than your mother's home. Have you forgotten everything I sacrificed raising you alone after your father left?" Days of emotional pressure followed until I gave in. I abandoned my business plan and took over her mortgage payments. She hugged me and said she always knew she could count on me. I felt only exhaustion and the death of a dream. Then came Riley, 5 years younger and always the favored one. I paid for her college without complaint. After graduation, she announced she wanted to open an upscale nail salon and needed a large investment. I suggested she create a proper business plan and apply for a bank loan, offering to help as her advisor. She exploded, "You think I'll fail? Of course you don't understand. Your life is so boring." She called our mother, who immediately took her side and repeated the same guilt script about single-handedly raising us. I eventually sent the money. Riley thanked me with a triumphant smile that felt more like victory than gratitude. The salon failed within a year due to her careless management. The money vanished, but she showed no remorse. Instead, she declared the experience had shaken her confidence, and she needed time before her next venture, a fashion brand. My mother suggested I set up a monthly dream support fund for Riley, and so $300 began leaving my account automatically each month. Meanwhile, my own achievements meant nothing to them. When I passed a difficult certification exam, my mother brushed it aside. "That's nice, but have you met anyone yet? A woman's real happiness is marriage." Riley asked only how much extra salary it brought and whether she could expect a better birthday gift. When I bought my first apartment, a modest place earned through years of discipline, their first comments were criticism. Too small, not worth the price. To them, I was not a daughter or sister. I was a reliable ATM for their lifestyle. The wedding betrayal was simply the final, most public expression of that truth. After the wedding, I stayed with Dylan while I healed. His family welcomed me as their own. Contact from my mother and Riley stopped completely, an eerie, coordinated silence. Then, months later, an email arrived from Vivian. Subject: Wonderful news. Riley was engaged. They were hosting a lavish engagement party at a prestigious hotel and were $2,500 short after booking venue, dress, and catering. As the family provider, I was expected to cover it immediately. No mention of the wedding they ruined. No apology. I stared at the message until something inside me finally, permanently broke. Not with rage or tears, just a vast, calm emptiness. I typed a single-word reply, "Congratulations." Then I blocked them on every platform, deleted their contacts, and erased them from my life. But I knew that wouldn't be enough. They still had keys to my apartment. The next day, I had the locks changed. When the locksmith handed me the new keys and said the old ones were now useless, I felt a wave of liberation. That evening, standing in my apartment behind the new lock, I cried, not from pain, but from relief. There was one final chain: money. I logged into my bank and canceled both automatic transfers, $1,500 monthly to my mother for the mortgage, $300 to Riley for her dreams. A total of $21,600 per year I had been giving away. The guilt lasted only a second before the memory of my empty wedding aisle burned it away. They were adults. Their lives were their responsibility now. Days later, on a quiet Saturday morning, the intercom buzzed repeatedly. My mother and sister stood outside, furious that their keys no longer worked. I didn't answer. They pounded on the door, shouted demands, threatened. Dylan held me as we waited in silence. Eventually, sirens approached. They had called the police, claiming I had stolen family heirlooms and was threatening them. I was ready. I opened the door calmly for the officers and presented a folder. Wedding photos showing empty seats, screenshots of their social media posts, timestamped during my ceremony, and 5 years of bank statements proving massive transfers. The officers reviewed everything, while my mother and sister stammered and failed to answer basic questions. In the end, the senior officer told them firmly that I had every legal right to change locks and stop financial support, and that further false reports would have consequences. They left without a word. I locked the door behind them and felt the final click of freedom. A week later, friends, Dylan's parents, neighbors, and colleagues filled my home with food and warmth. Dylan's father called me the daughter heaven had blessed them with. I cried again, this time from pure gratitude. Months passed. A relative later told me Riley's engagement had collapsed. The fiancé's traditional family could not accept relatives who created public scandals over money. My mother lost her house to foreclosure. Without my funds holding them together, they fell apart, blaming each other. I felt no triumph, only quiet pity. Today, Dylan and I live in a new apartment filled with light. I still work as an accountant, but I have new dreams, traveling to Italy at last, and sharing my story online to help others trapped in similar family dynamics. I walked through years of darkness so I could recognize true light when I found it. Blood does not define family. Love, respect, and choice do. The people who hurt and used me were never my real family. The ones who stood by me, celebrated me, and loved me without condition, they are. And from now on, I live only for the life I choose. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.